Love and Watches is a family-friendly podcast for male and female watch lovers alike. Perpetual Girl and Ranch Racer are a watch-crazy wife and husband team who've been wearing and collecting watches for more than 45 years. They enjoy bringing you the latest in collecting, interviews, news, and all things interesting in the world of watches. Enjoy the show. Hey, Love and Watches family. Welcome to another edition of the Love and Watches podcast. This is Perpetual Girl.
And this is Ranch Racer.
And we're actually coming to you from the backyard, something totally different. And we don't have our recording equipment out here, so we're keeping it simple.
We're completely winging it. We have no idea how the quality is going to be with this.
We're going to hope for the best.
Yeah, we basically left the soundboard and the headphones and the headphone mixer and everything in our little makeshift recording studio. We brought the digital recorder out and the microphones, and yeah, we're just gonna see how this goes.
We're still in quarantine. I've been hammered with chemo for almost 9 years now, so it's kind of a normal thing for me. But it's been really interesting after over 150 days.
I'm getting bored. Let's face it. Because I'm used to going out and meeting with customers, and I'm definitely getting bored. But
and we have plenty to do. We have a lot to do.
And we've been we
feel blessed.
We've been making a conscious effort to spend more time out here. I mean, we redid the backyard a couple years ago, put the pool in, all that stuff that you guys know about, and my routine. I've been working from home for many, many years, and so my routine has always been the alarm goes off, at 6:30, whatever, or I wake up before that, roll over, grab my phone off the nightstand, and I just start working, right? And
very structured.
Well, it's structured, but I would start working laying in bed. My eyes are barely open. I'm already going through emails, and then I'm still doing it at 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it's just a routine that I got into. And the one thing that's kind of making me think more about it, my customers they're government. And so government, as most of you guys know, does things 30 years in the past, right? They're not always on the bleeding edge. So all of my customers were very used to being in the office, right? Butts and seats. That's kind of the legacy way of doing business. And because of COVID and all this stuff and the lockdowns, basically the whole world's working from home. So my customers started saying, man, I'm finding that I'm working a lot more than I used to. Longer hours. I'm starting earlier. I'm ending later. We're getting more done, but I'm working a lot. And so that got me thinking about my own habits. And so we've been coming out in the morning. Instead of rolling over and looking at email, we come out here, we have coffee, we bring
kind of keeping it structured. Yeah.
Well, and we bring like an actual book with paper on it. And some of you younger listeners may not have a clue what that is, but it's an actual paper book. I leave the phone in the house, the iPad, and we just come out and have coffee and relax. And then around 8 o'clock, I'll go get my phone and I start working. And maybe I'll work out here for a while. Maybe I go in my office. But it was...
And then we'll do some like livestock chores.
Yeah, but it was really more to just disconnect a little bit. Have a little bit of a morning to wake up and refresh and get the brain kicking, right, before I start responding to emails on my phone. I
think keeping on a schedule is really important, too, because even though our schedules are really, just all over the place in pandemic. Like, I'm actually planning a vacation for us, and I'm going to have it quite structured, even though we're going to be on our property.
We're going on a cruise,
fun.
right?
Yeah, we're going on a cruise. But
I can't wait.
The pandemic has been interesting, but I've seen a lot of new watch collectors joining Instagram. They've got spare time. They're at home. They're looking for fellow watch people. And I think I've gained over 1,500 or so followers over the last, couple of months. And I've actually gone past 4,000 this month. And I wanted to give a shout out to a person whose Instagram handle is G-Shock and Awe. And he's from my birth town of Chicago, Illinois. So I thought that would be kind of fun to give a shout out to my 4,000th follower.
Wow, and sorry, you did not win a new car with that.
Oh, that's too bad.
You get nothing, but it is
slow.
You get the honor of being PG's 4,000th follower.
it's slow growth, but it's a lot of fun. And again, this is our hobby, and sometimes we can't do it regularly due to my chemo schedule, but we sure have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, and I will say I have gained no followers because I don't log into Instagram anymore. You all know my disdain for social media, so I don't do any of it anymore, and PG does it all. So
I think social media is, I think it's a good thing. It can be very bad, of course, but we've actually had a milestone. I don't know if I mentioned it on our last podcast, but back in April, we reached our 2-year anniversary of the Love and Watches podcast. So we're on about, we're on our 3rd year, well into it. And I, just for fun, I sort of went back and looked at our first few episodes back when we started and some of our posts, and talked about how, as a female collector, we of course, I love a dainty, diamond encrusted dress watch to wear at night or out to. It really does. And it's, as a woman, I like those feminine things, but as a collector, and I think my collection is, my last count, I've topped 90 watches, and most of them are well under $100 or $300. But, as a collector, I would see watches that you would review back in 2017 when you were doing a lot of reviews that I thought, wow, that is I love that diver. I'd love to wear it, like some of the large Doxas and large Seikos, things like that, Panerai. And you'd say, oh, honey, it's like 45 millimeters. So, and I was like, that really is a bummer because I love that watch. And if it was in a 40 or 38, it would be fantastic. And I think that is the reason why we started the podcast. But looking now, 3 years later, what has changed? I think some things have changed. There's a lot more women getting on social media. There's now 2 podcasts that have female hosts. So that's an improvement. But I think we're starting to see that a lot of the female customers are vocally asking for smaller watches. And this isn't just women. This is men with small wrists. And I've had our listeners DM me, some of the guys who have even a 6-inch wrist, which is smaller than mine. I'm 6 1/4, and saying, oh, I really love your Dan Henry 1964. How do you think, how many, links does it have? Can it get smaller than blah, blah, blah? So I've had a lot of people reach out to me that way. So I think, I think there's room for improvement, of course, and we're all just having a good time. We're all having a good time doing it. So.
Yep. That's what it's all about.
And I think marketing has a big thing to do with it. We spent a lot of time with one of the ADs at Chopard one time when I can't remember where we were, but they were telling us about,
Vegas.
It might have been, about a male customer who was absolutely in love with Happy Diamonds, a very expensive model. It might have been a 36 millimeter, 38. I can't remember.
That's what the diamonds that kind of go around the track.
They
around
move
the dial.
as you rotate the watch. Yeah. It's really pretty. And he just fell in love with this. It was like his grail. Getting ready to buy it, doing all the paperwork. He walked into the AD to do the purchase and saw a poster on the wall that showed a woman wearing the watch, and it was marketed for women. He absolutely turned tail and did a 180.
Oh, he didn't buy it?
He said, I do not want to wear a woman's. I won't wear a woman's watch. And I think it's really sad because why market it to a woman if both could wear it? So there's a fine line between gender and how you want to market this watch.
Well, yeah, it's any watch. I mean, look at like the Rainbow Daytona. I mean, just rubies and diamonds and emeralds and every kind of high-end piece of rock you could put on a watch, and men and women both love that watch. It's not marketed to one. It's not marketed as a women's Daytona. It's just a Daytona.
Oh yeah, I love it.
I think it's really cool. I don't think I'd ever wear it. I'd never have anywhere to wear it, but I think it's a very neat watch.
So that's where marketing can be kind of divisive. So you just have to be careful. I think they need to be careful how they're portraying. It's all an image, and it's all about, and that carries over into social media, into Instagram, where as a collector, I want to be taken serious as a woman, and not, I don't want to be objectified. I want to be a collector and then a woman second. So that's a tough one.
It is, and
that's a
unfortunately,
trend
you don't always see that on Instagram, and it's, I don't know. I don't know if I don't really want to get into all that, but I think it does a disservice to women, and we're about watches. That's what we're on here for, and
Absolutely.
And Instagram, I call it Insta ad now because you're pummeled with ads. It's you can't really believe anyone's likes or follows anymore because there's so many ways to buy into that. And I want to subscribe to X amount of likes and follows every week. And it gets it doesn't mean anything anymore. And that's why I got sick of it. Plus, it's just, as we see the more and more division, we're not seeing people come together at all anymore in society. We're seeing more and more division between people. And I think, unfortunately, like Instagram and Facebooks and all these other things, unfortunately, they add to that. And I just got sick of it. So I'm done. I mean, I every once in a while I'll log into Instagram to see if someone's DM'd me because I don't want people to think I've just dropped off the face of the earth. But it got really frustrating for me. And I think it's not just about people sharing photos anymore. It's a big contest now, and it's not for me. I'm just not interested.
It is, and I know there's a core group of watch fam, you could call them, that are, you really appreciate their feed, and I love scrolling through everybody's feed and looking at all the different watches. But some of the ads that are coming out, I don't even see a watch. It's like, is there a watch in that ad? So that's one of those.
It's not even ads. It's just personal posts too.
Or
it's
posts
like, where's the
where.
watch?
And that's fine. It's however anybody wants to do their marketing of their product or account, whatever. But I
guess, but sometimes I just feel
I'm
like a lot of the
hardcore
stuff is setting women's rights back 100 years. I mean, it's just crazy. I don't understand it. I mean, there's been a ton of progress in that area, and a lot of the stuff that's out there, it's like, whoa, where are we going now? I don't like it. It's not about the watch anymore. So. What are we talking about today? What's the show about? Do you want to start with some wrist checks, and we'll kind of get into that? Sure. Well, why don't I do my wrist check first, because then your wrist check leads into the topic of the show. Does that make sense? Sure. Okay. So my wrist check is, I don't think this is one I've ever worn on the show. PG, you actually posted this, I think, on our Instagram account. This week, yes. This week. So some of our listeners may have seen it. It's one of the least expensive watches probably in my collection, but it's the number one most valuable. And that's because it belonged to my dad. It's kind of your typical gold plated Seiko quartz watch, dress watch from the 80s. We can hear a plane going over. You guys might be able to hear a plane. And we live next to an airport. The goose is letting us know, so we'll just keep going along. It's your typical gold plated quartz Seiko from the 80s, and it's so meaningful to me because, we lost my dad a couple years ago, and when I put this watch on, I literally can hear in the back of my mind, I hear my dad after a long day's work coming home, taking this specific watch off and laying it down in his little dresser valet. And I have that valet, and if I do that, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm playing on the floor in my parents' bedroom. My dad came home and put the watch on the valet. I can smell his aftershave. I don't know what it was, but I have that scent that I can smell. And it really brings, I think for me, it brings to the forefront why we do this, right? I don't need a watch to tell time anymore, but this thing literally transports me back in time to much simpler times. I don't know if it's much happier times, but definitely much smoother times in society. And it just evokes all those feelings. So this is 100% the most valuable watch in my collection. And so I think it shows that, the most expensive is not necessarily the most meaningful or the most valuable watch. It could be the cheapest piece of junk, and this is not a piece of junk, but it could be the cheapest little thing in your collection that means the most. And so and I don't wear it very often. It's it's very dressy, so it's not something I wear around the house. But back then, men wore their watch all the time. They wore that watch with whatever they had. My dad, he took them on. He didn't wear a watch usually around the house. He took it off. But when he went out to work or he went to a family function, he would put a watch on. And this is just one that I really remember. And maybe it's the color because it's so gold. Maybe it was the sound it made because of the way the bracelet is. My dad was a one watch person too, and he wore a 1960s Bulova, and I don't know what happened to it. I think it was stolen, but I'm not sure. But then thinking about your watch from the 80s, when I graduated high school in 1986, I was gifted by my parents the same era Seiko watch, but for ladies.
and it's very tiny. It has like a 10 millimeter case, and I put it on this week for a while you were wearing that, and it when I would see it in a mirror, it just transported me back. I was 17 when I got that watch, so I mean that's a long time ago, but it just really brings back looking at the shape, looking at the reflection, feeling it on my wrist. It really just it was like a time warp for me too, and thinking about your dad's watch, because they basically were probably sold together at the same time, those two models.
I'm sure. Yeah, a women's and a men's or whatever. But it is amazing what a watch what just a piece of jewelry, an object can do. Yeah, and I
over
teared
decades,
up thinking, before putting this on and then smelling the aftershave and thinking about it.
Too.
But it keeps my dad close, even though he's not with us anymore. It's like I'm wearing my dad on my wrist. It's kind of cool. So anyway, so that's my wrist check. What's yours?
Well, mine, I'm wearing a watch that we've had in for review for over a week now, and it's the Swiss watch company SWC Sport. This particular one is the mint colorway, so it's mint. It's got a mint green dial in the center, and then surrounding that center under the crystal is a solid, thick piece of ceramic where the indices are, and we're going to talk a lot about this with our interview with Stephen and Josh from Swiss Watch Company, but I have to say,
the show today.
That's our show. That's our show today. We're gonna talk with them about the new release and the Kickstarter that's coming up really soon. But I have to say, I've so truly enjoyed wearing this watch that you'll hear it in my review. I'll talk all about it. But I was not expecting to like it this much because of the size. It's 41 millimeters, correct? Sorry, chemo brain.
I think so. Yeah, it's a 41.
But and I thought for sure that would wear way too large on my wrist, and I do not like when the lugs hang over or the watch just overpowers my wrist.
But those don't, right?
This does not. Even with the rub, there's a silicone band that comes with it, and I'm wearing it on the Velcro strap. And I've never seen a NATO like this, and it does not pass under the watch, so it doesn't raise the watch up. The watch sits flat on my wrist.
Yeah, that's cool.
And there's no bulky keepers or where you have to fold the NATO back over and it sticks up like 2 centimeters above the watch. So I have to say this is pretty ingenious.
You're giving away your whole review.
I know. There's more.
So guys, there is a review.
I'm sorry.
That's coming out on the website right around the same time that this podcast hits iTunes and Spotify and YouTube and everywhere else. So we've timed it so that you guys can listen to the podcast today, which is with Stephen and Josh from SWC. And then you can head over to the website and read PG's review on the watch.
Well, and the reason I wanted to say that is we were talking about our 2-year anniversary and how I think it's really important for manufacturers to have a unisex size. And you and I have both worn this week. So that's I think that's significant to mention for this podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
So did you want to read a reader review?
Well, yeah, that's the last thing we need to cover,
right.
I think, and then we're going to get into the interview with the guys, right?
Yep. So. We always say we're going to do a short intro, and then we end up going.
Yeah, we're going on 20 minutes. So
okay.
Why don't we do that, and then we'll send folks over to the interview.
Okay. We've gotten, I was saying during pandemic, people are really exploring their hobbies, and we've gotten a lot of new followers and listeners, which we're really grateful for that. And we've been reading some reader reviews every once in a while when we see a really fun one on iTunes. And this one was from the Epi Man, and the title is, "Thanks for speaking for all watch lovers. I'm new to the hobby and have been devouring content. My wife saw me reading something and asked me if there was anything in it for women. I looked and looked. It was a book, and there was not. Then I started looking at my other books and the web, and nothing. I was pretty distraught. I listened to Two Broke Watch Snobs, and I learned about this podcast from their Things They Hate About Instagram, the Instagram Trends That Need to Die podcast. I was so excited to hear about Love and Watches and have listened to them all. Thanks for what you do, and thanks for representing all watch lovers."
Awesome. Well, thank you, the Epi Man. If you're listening to this show, which I'm assuming you will, send us an email at admin@loveandwatches.com. And we're going to get you out some fun swag, because that's the deal. If we read your iTunes review, Or I know there's some other platforms that do reviews. I try to log into those from time to time.
Well, we're on all platforms,
But
correct?
we're mostly, I think for this right now, we're just sticking with it's just easier because most of our listeners are on iTunes. I can go in and look, and if we read your review on the air, you get some fun swag. So send us an email at admin@levinwatches.com with your name and address, and let us know we read your review on the air, and we will send you out some fun stuff.
Something fun. Yeah, we actually have a lot of listeners who are not on Instagram, so we don't want to leave them out. And I think that's, we've been contacted by different people, especially for our spotlight, through email, through our website. So that's been fun. We're not forgetting about you guys.
Yeah, and if you guys, again, if you do want to be on the show and you're not on Instagram, just send us an email again at admin@levinwatches.com. And
the list is filling up fast.
Yeah, it is. It's growing quickly, which is awesome.
Fun.
I mean, we're getting way more responses than I thought we would. So it's fun to see all you that are interested in just coming on the show and chatting about your love of the hobby. So I think that's really cool.
Well, I think that brings us to our highlight of this podcast, which is our discussion with Stephen and Josh from Swiss Watch Company. And I think you guys are really going to like it.
Yeah, I think so. It was. I think I mentioned when we did the interview with them a few days ago that I was shocked that it had been a year since we talked to them last. It felt like it was just a few months ago. But
yeah,
right now, every day blends into the next, to be honest. But
we interviewed them for the diver release and actually did the giveaway of the diver.
Yeah,
which was really fun.
They've been friends of the show for a while, since we met them at Couture in 2018 in person. So just good people. I mean,
it's a family-owned business.
We don't push brands. I guess you could say we help friends, right?
Well, we're not sponsored.
No, we're not sponsored.
Yeah,
but
we don't do sponsorships. But
there are some brands that we've really taken a liking to ourselves, just for what they represent, how they go about doing their business. SWC being one, Formex, the guys we had from Formex on a few weeks ago. So just if we make a connection with people and we like them as people, like they always say in sales, I've been in sales for so many years, you do business with people, not with companies. And we just really hit it off with them. It's a great family-owned business. Stephen has an amazing history in the watch world and in design. Josh, his son, is he understands all the marketing and the social media function and how that all works. So, and his brothers are into it too. I mean, one of them works at Formex, I think.
Right? There's a connection there.
So there's
very talented people,
very talented family, very talented group of people, and we really just like the way they go about their business. They care about quality. They're trying to really stamp out an identity for themselves in terms of how their watches look, which is
and not be a catalog watch.
Very difficult. So anyway,
we don't want to give everything
blabbering on, but
we are.
So we brought him on the show. We told him we'd have him back prior to the release of their next piece, which is coming up in just a couple weeks here. So we had the guys on. I think we talked for about an hour, and it's never long enough. It's just so much fun, and I can't wait to actually see them again. So one of these days we'll get out there and see them again. But is that it? Can we move?
That is, and it's really, really good discussion about all the details and more.
Awesome. All right. So with that, guys, we hope you enjoyed this interview with Stephen and Josh Reamer from Swiss Watch Company. Enjoy.
And here we are today with Swiss Watch Company. Hello, guys.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It was funny. We were just talking before we started recording, and it's actually been a year since we last chatted on the podcast. For me, it felt like just a few months, but that's probably COVID-19 brain. That's pandemic brain.
Exactly.
How are you guys doing out there? I'm sure it's nice and cool in the high desert in Nevada.
We're doing okay. We got the heat wave finally, and it's we have about 2 or 3 weeks of somewhere around the 100, 105, and summer has arrived.
Yeah.
Same with us. We're getting a little cool down this week, down to about 85 or 90.
Yeah, this week's been pretty decent.
It's actually not too bad when it's dry.
Not too much hundreds yet for us. But yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah.
But we're really excited to talk to you about the new SWC your new baby, the SWC Sport.
Yeah, and speaking of babies,
We have
Josh, you've got some exciting stuff coming
Yep.
pretty quickly, don't you?
Yes, very quickly. Our twins will be coming this Friday. So
Wow.
Oh my
big
gosh.
change coming for us. We did not. We already have 3 kids. So
Right.
We really didn't expect to jump straight to 5.
That's
Big jump, but we're really excited, and luckily we have a lot of help with family here, so
That's
it'll
great.
be good.
That's awesome.
So
Well,
exciting.
we totally know how you guys feel. We have twins as well, although ours have feathers and bills, so probably not quite the same thing. But
Well, I do have some of those too.
yeah, I
That's
know you
right.
do, and goats and all that fun stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, and I have to say, I finally did get an egg apron. We talked about that last time.
Oh, yes.
Cool.
It's
A really underrated thing. I know it was a joke gift, honestly, when I got it, but it's actually it works really well. I enjoy it.
They do. The goose eggs are a little tough though, because they're so big, they barely fit and they sometimes fall out. So I have to strategically place them.
Yeah, I have yet to get a goose. If it weren't for the twins, I would have one already.
Oh,
And in fact, like I was speaking to you the other day about, I had to relocate some of the animals. Luckily, we live in a farming community, so we still get to visit our goats. I had a couple Nigerian dwarfs that we
Oh.
loved. I got to milk every morning, and so kind of sad to see those gone, but we'll have them back once things calm down.
they'll be in good hands.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. They definitely are.
Well, cool. We should get right into this. I know we don't have a ton of time to chat with you guys today. I wish we had more time. But you guys have had a lot of stuff going on since we talked with you last. For our listeners that maybe haven't gone back and listened to all the episodes, Josh and Steven and the brand Swiss Watch Company have been friends of the show for a long time, and we actually were able to give one of their watches away
The diver.
last year, the diver, yeah. But since then, you've had the chronograph that came out, and you've got an exciting one coming out next month, I believe on Kickstarter, but you can correct me if I'm wrong there. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about the SWC Sport and what's going on and the plans?
Well, this was 100% my dad's design. All credit goes to him, so I'll let him speak to that and how this came about and the rigorous process it has been to bring it to life. It's been a long time coming, this model.
All right. Well, we wanted to come up with a watch that would be simplistic, durable, has all the durability features of a diver's watch, but can be worn anywhere and in any situation that you want, and you'll feel good about it, and it's comfortable. So we decided we will have a nylon strap coming with it with Velcro, probably one of the most simplistic straps there available, and make sure it's not a NATO configuration. We have a silicone strap that goes with it, also very comfortable, and then of course the mandatory solid stainless steel bracelet with a micro adjustable buckle. The design that idea that we had with that was to continue on with the ceramic ring, however this time placing it into the dial, which presented itself with a lot of challenges that some of it we knew would be there, and others that we experienced while we found out about them once we started getting the samples in. The ceramic ring is rather special in that regard, that it also entails, it has the indexes incorporated into it, and we wanted to make sure that those indexes would be very, very detailed, so and have a luminescence with them that is basically the same as we have in the diver's watch. So those two main features that we had that made us noticeable in the micro brand community was strong luminescence and some specific features that are known to our watch. So the thickness that we have in the luminescence is basically 0.4 millimeter. It's the same thickness that we have in the diver's watch, and we'll continue on with that feature with all the other watches that we'll design in the future as well. The design ideas that we got for those indexes on the ceramic ring came from the current, upgraded designs that are in the technical, what's the word? Help me, Josh. Car industry, in anything that deals with electronics. So LED features that we wanted to see. Okay, how can we bring a touch of that into our watch? So that's what we wanted to do with these indexes. They're completely different than anything that's customary known in the industry as indexes that need to be just straight markers or round markers, wherever the hour indexes, the hour markers should be.
Yeah, the 6 o'clock. When I first saw the treatment that you guys did at 6 o'clock, I almost felt like I was looking at like an airplane's heads up display, right, with the artificial horizon and the marker. That was kind of the first thing that came to mind. So that makes, when you talk about it coming from electronics and the
Correct, yes.
that kind of industry, that makes sense.
And that was my biggest question, was the inspiration for those indice shapes, because
Never seen
very
anything
unusual
like
to see that on a wristwatch.
Yep.
Yes. So we fiddled around with it, and we, after about a half a year of doing it with different designs, we both felt this is good what we have right now. Let's do it. And then we started with tooling, and then all of the problems started to come up.
It was quite the process. I mean, this is something mentioned quite a bit. A lot of micro brands, especially the ones that pop up, it's not uncommon to see essentially catalog watches, and it's not so much that it's easy, but unless you're someone, and my dad, he's very modest, but if you don't have someone like my dad, or you have a background in engineering these small parts and watches, if you go to a manufacturer and you take a design like the one we have here, and this happened to my dad multiple times, and you say, I want it to be like this, and you have the tech drawings, they'll tell you it can't be done. And unless you have a background like my dad does, that's the end of your road, because you can't push back against that unless you do have the knowledge to be able to say, no, it can be done. Mm-hmm. It just has to be done like this. And it was a little over a year of that until we could finally bring it to life, and it is what it is today.
It really is a unique design. It's something that PG and I have talked about quite a bit recently, was the phenomenon of the micro brand world, and how many brands seem to pop up on an almost daily basis. Yeah. And that it's so hard to come up, if you see a Rolex Daytona across the room and you're into watches, you know what you're looking at, right? And it's that brand identity. And you guys did I think you did a really smart job of that with the first offering in the diver, because you had that center section of the dial that was kind of set apart from the rest of the dial. Talk a little bit about how that's kind of moved forward with this new one. The pattern's changed a little bit. The way it's presented is yes. Slightly different.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to talk about your inspiration for the center, the treatment of, I'm wearing the mint green, and I see this sort of multi-level,
almost like a basket weave.
It's almost a basket or a subway tile. So I'd love to hear you talk about that as well, because there's so many levels of this watch.
Yeah.
Yes. So one thing that a lot of watches have, there's not much depth to them. I mean, there's not much to play around with. You have about 1.5 millimeters of space that you have within a watch where you can say, okay, how can we liven this up a little bit? So the center dial portion is a ocean of squares on different levels that increase the depth of the watch quite a bit, and we hope we achieve that. Some might argue that, but we feel that we added quite a bit of depth to the watch because of that, and we wanted to liven it up a little bit in that regard and make it also unique. So the whole pattern of the watch has a depth perception that increases everything to the thickness of the watch.
There's a pearlescent to it as well, so it looks like you've really had a lot of fun with color. And that's something I studied in college. I studied color theory, so I'm always really interested in hearing how people choose which colors and treatments.
Yeah, coming back from being in this with the Swatch group, and I worked on the Swatch watches so much in my life, and I've been involved in all of those colors, not designing them, but see how much influence colors can have. I think it's an exciting thing to be able to bring different colors into it that makes a normal watch with you have your blues, you have your silvers, and you have your blacks, coming up with colors that are a little bit off the beaten path. Let's put it that way. But they're exciting, I think, and they're not for everybody, each color. But I think we have something that can poke everybody's interest.
Oh, definitely. We've looked at all the different colorways, and it looks like some are a tint of a color and some are a shade. So it really changes how, how that feels as far as maybe a more playful look or maybe a more dressy look.
Or a more serious look, right? You go from like the black DLC, which is mostly all blacked out, all the way into the pastels, right? The mint greens and the peach, almost the peach color.
Looking through them, I have a hard time choosing.
Yeah, a lot of options. It's very cool.
If you had to pick one, if you were going to buy one. And then I know there's different movements in them, so we'd love to talk about the movement choices for each colorway.
Yeah, we have the SW200, the automatic models, and those colorways are a bit more conservative. They're not as risky. They're more traditional. I think the swamp green and the burgundy are the most non-standard colorways we have. But we wanted to do a quartz option, and we took a little more liberty there with the colorways, but we wanted to have an option for those in the more affordable range, because there seems to be ceilings in the watch market, and one of those ceilings is at the $300 mark, and doing that with an SW200 is just an impossibility.
Yeah,
we couldn't do it at the quality that we want to achieve, so we decided to go with the quartz option, keep the dials separate and differentiated by the sub dial as well as the colors, so people would know right away that this is the quartz model, this is the automatic, and then that other ceiling tends to be around $500. You see lots of videos where it's top 5 under 300, top 5 under 500. There's something about those two numbers that some people just won't pass. So we like to keep our watches in that range, keep them a really high quality, at the same time keeping them in a range that most people are comfortable with, especially in the micro brand space.
Sure. Yeah. And you mentioned the subdial on the quartz. So that's a second time zone, or I guess I've always kind of referred to it as like an office GMT or a worker, as opposed to a traveler GMT where you're quick setting the main hands and the main dial, but it's got like a little subdial at 6. And that even adds, I think, some additional depth to the quartz version that isn't present in the auto
and
without that subdial.
And it's loomed as well, because I tested
the hands, right? Yeah.
Because I like to sleep in a watch and to tell time when I wake up in the middle of the night, and the loom on this was very, very good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we wanted to see if there's, the success that a GMT watch has in the quartz world. It's for me, it's if you want to mimic a normal GMT in the quartz world, that doesn't jive well. Okay, for me, GMT watches are mechanical with a fourth hand there from the center out, and they're just just the watch industry. Whereas this quartz movement has additional two hands that are in a subdial, and yeah, you can set it to any time that you want with the pusher that's on the side of the case with different options of setting it. So it's movement is from Ronda, Swiss made, and their long history of making quartz movements.
And I really like the almost vintage feel of a subdial. It really goes back to older watches.
Well, it almost kind of can remind you of like an original small seconds before they went to the center watch sweep hand. So it looks like, and if I'm looking, let me look at the data sheet here. So tell us a little bit about how you settled on the size. Size is always a big conversation. And I find
with us for sure.
Well, with us for sure, but I find it coming up more and more as our purchasing behavior moves more towards online, right? Especially with micro brands, you can't go into a retailer, even if we're not going through a global pandemic. You really can't go into a retailer and try the watch on. So a lot of people will simply look at the diameter, and they look at the diameter and they make a decision based on that. And we, anytime our listeners ask us, for advice on size, we always make sure to reinforce that you need to look at other things besides that, right? You need to look at something called the lug to lug distance. You need to look at the thickness, because the thickness has a big effect on how the watch wears and feels. So how did you guys settle on the sizes? I mean, obviously your diver and I think the chrono are larger size than this guy. How'd you guys settle on what I think is 41, right?
From a market standpoint, my dad can get into the technical stuff, but with our diver, we got a lot of feedback, a lot of people wanting a smaller size. And the diver is 44 millimeters, but to its credit, it's only 13 millimeters thick. The lug to lug's under 50, it's about 49. So it's still much more wearable than the standard 44, but like you said, people see the 44 and that's it. They're not looking any further. So we wanted to do something in a smaller range. 41 seems to be the sweet spot for a lot of people and gets the biggest audience. It's most comfortable for people. And we didn't want to take the diver design and simply size it down, because the diver was designed to be the size it is. And we played with a little bit. It just didn't feel right. So we decided to size this one. If it's going to be a sport watch, have a more sporty feel, it almost had to be in this range to where it was a little smaller. It fit better. My brother, he has a 6-inch wrist, and he's able to wear this one. He wears the diver too. I think it's too big for his wrist, but he wears it. And that's we just wanted to have a watch available for more people. I always felt bad when people would message us for the diver and say, I love your watch, I want to support you guys, but it's just too big. And I can't fault people for not buying a watch that they don't feel would fit on their wrist. So that's our reasoning to going into it. As far as wear and how we decided the thickness, my dad can speak to that, because he designed the case and the thickness, and a lot of that has to do with movement and water resistance and other technical things that most people don't realize go into factoring in the size of the case.
Okay, so the biggest challenge that we had with this packaging to make sure that we're not going into divers thickness territory, we have a ceramic ring that demands to have a specific thickness. You cannot make them things thin like a normal dial and think it's gonna, manufacturing wise, it's gonna work. So we, the sweet spot that I would have wanted to achieve was somewhere around the high 10s or the low 11s, and we just got below 12 millimeter with a watch, and it's the ceramic ring thickness alone is I think it's almost 2.5 millimeters thick with the indexes. So there's a lot of challenges that we had because of that, due to packaging of the dial combined with the ceramic ring in the watch. But based on that, we always the case back thickness, if it's a 10 ATM watch, which this one is, we always go at least 5 ATM higher in securities. So the case back thickness would qualify for a 200 millimeter depth or an official diver's watch. The same thing with the sapphire crystal. We give it those additional securities, and because of that, we came out with that thickness, and I think it matches well with everything. The when you look at the packaging or the design between silicon strap and case, or stainless steel strap with the case, the dimensions, I believe they flow there. It's not something that's pompous, or I always say I don't have the self-confidence as a person that has a 50 millimeter watch on their wrist. So I'm more on the 40 to 45 millimeter, and that's why we came up with that 41. Joshua always pushed me, okay, let's make it a little bit smaller so we can have a bigger audience there, because he gets the feedback from the market, and ultimately
I get a lot of messages.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
A lot of the points are driven by the customers that say, please try to incorporate this point or that point, and we tend to want to listen and to see how we can satisfy those demands.
Well, as a female collector, I was very pleasantly surprised that, and I have a 6 1/4 inch wrist, and I thought for sure this was going to wear really large. And there's a lot of feel difference between the two bands I have. We don't have the bracelet, but I started out with the silicon band, and now I'm on the this lovely soft. It's like a Velcro piece, and it's like nothing. I've never seen anything like it. And the
very unique strap, and it really pulls the case down on your wrist,
it does.
so it really lays nicely on your wrist.
And the lugs don't hang over
Yep.
when you look from above, and it just is really, really comfortable. So that's something I always look for as well, is can I wear this watch all day? Do I feel it all the time? Can I get in my pool and splash in my farm with, filling buckets and things? I'm always nervous about some of my quartz pieces. So if there's a lot of safety built into it and it's going to wear small, you're going to reach a lot of female collectors as well. And I already have one friend who saw it on my Instagram feed and has to have it.
Well,
thank you.
And I do have to say, it's when you start looking at pieces that have a lot of layers built into that dial in the face of the watch, they can get pretty thick. I mean, I've seen them up 13, 14 millimeter in thickness. So the fact that you guys were able to keep the quartz version under 12 and the auto is less than 0.5 millimeter thicker. So it actually is pretty impressive what you've done by being able to incorporate that thick ceramic outer portion of the dial and still keep those thicknesses. I mean, it doesn't look overly thick. It looks really good on PG's wrist, I think.
And it's not overly with the straps. It's not overly masculine. Some NATO style when they wrap around and there's metal keepers on top and big flaps and everyone's tucking in and it sticks up 1/2 inch or over a centimeter. That's a totally different look that I think is a busy look. But this nylon, the way you've chosen these bands, it really does make it universal to just about any wrist or any gender.
Yeah, we're quite happy with the importance of being able to wear the watch snug to your wrist, and because it's Velcro, it will fit every wrist, and it's breathable at the same time. Standard nylon straps, they're not necessarily breathable. I mean, you know, sometimes you feel kind of sweaty when you have them on.
Mm-hmm.
This is really breathable, and we're quite happy with it. So thanks for that observation as well.
So glad that you're enjoying that. They're almost a little spongy, and like they have a little cushion to them. But I like that they're quickly adjustable. I mean, it gets hot here, so wrist size fluctuates throughout the day.
Yes.
And I like that you have it kind of wears like a NATO without, like you said, the downsides. It always drives me nuts that the strap passes underneath the case and then raises it off on NATO straps. So you kind of get the best of both worlds with these, and it's something we're really happy with how they turned out.
They're certainly unique. I have not. The only thing I have that even comes close would be the one that comes with the Voliva's Lunar Pilot. They have an option that's kind of, it's Velcro to remind you of the space program, but it still sits. It makes the case sit up very high. It's got the piece of nylon that sits between your wrist and the case back, whereas this doesn't. So it really sits. It sits really nicely. I think you guys have done a good job with this, and it's, like I said, it's very unique. Do the pieces come with both, or how is that going to work? Actually, why don't we get into the campaign? Tell us a little bit about when the Kickstarter, I believe it is Kickstarter, when that starts, the offerings that you're going to have, pricing, all that fun stuff.
So our campaign is going to launch August 10th. We don't have a time yet, but we're going to try to get a time dialed in that will appeal to not just our customers here in the States, but in Europe and Asia as well. So we're going to get a time nailed down, but each watch will come with the silicone strap you have and the nylon strap you have. And we're going to have those available afterwards as well for really reasonable prices. But each watch will come with the silicone and the nylon strap, and each piece has basically a matching pair. It's not just all one color, and we tried to match them pretty accurately so they really complement the dial. The one on the Mint matches really well, I think, and we'll have those available. The quartz will be under $300 at $269, and the automatic will be at $389. So we try to keep it as low as possible, and we'll be raising a little bit after the campaign later in the year. One thing to note on the automatic versions is we're only going to have 200 available for pre-order on Kickstarter. And the main reason for that is that's how many movements we have on hand right now to guarantee a quick delivery. Nobody wants to wait 6 months on a watch. That's one of the biggest drawbacks for Kickstarter.
Yep.
So something we've been doing, we planned on launching this watch early in the year, but for obvious reasons, it was a bad time. Didn't really happen. So we've been pushing, and then finally we decided, you know what, who knows when the right time will be to launch, so we're just going to launch. But during that time of pushback, we spent it getting things ready for the sports watch to be done. So certain things are already underway with manufacturing, so we'll be ready for a very quick delivery, and one that most Kickstarter backers will not be accustomed to.
That's
immediate.
Make sure that everything is delivered within 2 months of final Kickstarter date. So there's some challenges that go with it, but we want to make sure that it's going to be way before Christmas that everybody has their product.
Yeah, it's not going to be the standard 6, sometimes even 9 months to a year. Obviously, this is a pretty unique situation because of COVID-19. We didn't want to sit and just wait, so we've been spending our time wisely, getting things prepared for that. So things will be delivered much faster than normal.
Wow, that's great news. I mean, 2 months is pretty amazing for Kickstarter. So for our listeners that don't know what Kickstarter is, or they've heard about it but aren't familiar with what it is or how it works, Give us a little explanation of how that process works and what the buyers can expect when they look at your campaign on Kickstarter.
So we'll have on our campaign page, we'll have a video that will give a background on the watch. One really cool thing about the video, we mention this a lot, but we're a family company. So we are, my brother, he lives over in Switzerland. He's a watchmaker. He actually assembles all of our pieces. And he's going to be recording some video, so hopefully we'll be able to get him in the video. But all of my brothers are in the video, my dad. So we really focus on the family aspect. I mean, we grew up with watches. My dad, before he worked for Swatch Group, and then he moved to the States, and then in '96 he started this company making watches for the armed forces. So we all grew up with watches. But they'll all be in the video, and then you can order through Kickstarter. You pay Kickstarter, and then they transfer the money to us if we get funded. We don't have a goal set yet as to what we will have, but essentially Kickstarter works in a way where you set a funding goal, and then that funding goal goes towards manufacturing. And if that goal is not reached, then you don't get any of the money. So there's a little bit of risk involved. In our case, not as much, since we're already established. And that's kind of what gives Kickstarter. I can't talk about Kickstarter without going over the negative aspect that it has. There are, unfortunately, like you mentioned, it seems like every day there's a new brand popping up. Not all of them have done many favors to the reputation of micro brands, especially new micro brands. And a lot of them tend to flock to Kickstarter, Indiegogo, because these platforms are somewhat conducive to that type of behavior, releasing catalog watches. So there will be, it's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's somewhat of its own marketplace, to where Kickstarter has a lot of watches on there. A lot of really reputable brands have started on Kickstarter, namely Zelos started on Kickstarter. So if you haven't heard of Kickstarter, the best thing you can do as a first-time buyer is just do your research on the brand. Don't go on, and if you see a watch you like, back it. Do your research, and all of the negative things that people warn you about when you're going on to Kickstarter won't be as much of an issue. As long as you research the brand, find out who's behind it. In our case, we have a YouTube channel that we upload weekly, maybe not weekly after the twins come, we'll see. But we try to stay as connected to the community as possible, be as transparent as possible so people can see the people behind the brand. In our case, it's our family. So if anyone listening hasn't used Kickstarter, you can feel free to go to our YouTube channel, see what we're all about, do your research on us as a brand and a family, and as long as you do that with campaigns, your buying experience will be really enjoyable.
Now, can potential buyers actually reach out and contact you? And if so, what's the best way for them to do that if they want to learn about the brand or had questions about the Kickstarter campaign or the watch itself?
Yes, absolutely. On our Instagram, SWC USA, I'm always answering messages there. On our email, just the contact sheet through our website, on our YouTube channel. I will almost always respond immediately, and if not immediately, as soon as I can. I like to be as responsive as possible because I know from my own point of view as a consumer, that really means a lot. And I have everything routed through my phone, so really, there's no excuses for me not to be able to respond. So if someone does have a question, wants to reach out, I am more than happy to chat with people. It's part of what makes me love what I do, is getting to know people within the community. I've honestly gained a lot of friends through this. Some of them have come from the first time we were on your channel on the podcast, and it makes it really enjoyable for me. So I don't ever want someone to hesitate or apologize for reaching out and asking questions about our watches. It's always something that I'm happy to talk about.
He is quick in answering, I must say.
I try to be as quick as possible.
Well, and after Friday, you're going to be up 24 hours a day, so you should be able to respond 24 hours a day.
Exactly. I will be awake. Message me at any time. I guarantee if I don't have a baby crashed out on my chest, I'll have my phone and be ready to answer.
That's awesome.
Can I back up and ask one more little question about the campaign?
Yes, please.
The stainless steel bracelet will be the one that is optional.
Yes.
You buy separately. Now, will this, if someone purchases both the automatic and the quartz, is that bracelet, are the lugs and the case identical so that that bracelet would match each of those, the Ronda quartz version versus the SW?
I'm so glad you brought that up because, yes, not only will it fit both, but the bracelet has quick release end links. So there's no need for anyone to buy more than one bracelet. You can swap it out in seconds. It's extremely easy. You don't need any tools. Size it once, and it's ready to go. But that will be sold separately. We might have it included in the Kickstarter campaign, but we're still working on getting the clasp finalized. And we're very cautious in having things announced and available. So unless we have it absolutely finalized by the Kickstarter campaign, we will not list it as part of the campaign, and we will have it available on our website later when we can have exact specs, performance, and price available.
Excellent. And you mentioned micro adjustment on the clasp, which is something that both
Yes.
Ranch Racer and I love. And I make adjustments all day or change watches if, however my wrist changes. So it's really great to hear that you're going to have a micro adjustment that you don't have to use tools for. Can I assume that?
Yes. So not only will the end links, you won't have to use tools to swap out the bracelet. You can do that on the fly. But the clasp as well will have micro adjustments that you can do on the fly without tools. For anyone who's familiar with our diver, it will be a similar function as the diver, but it will be sized down quite considerably because the adjustment clasp on the diver is pretty large to match the construction of the diver.
Gotcha. Okay.
Perfect.
Now, one thing I will say is that because of the way you guys have laid out the color options, the fact that the quartz has the subdial, I could see multiple buyers wanting to own both. Well, are you guys going to have any? Because within Kickstarter, you usually have different buying options. Are you thinking about doing any kind of a bundle option, like buy two at this price, that sort of thing?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we will definitely incentivize those who want to purchase an auto and a quartz, or two autos, two quartz. That will definitely not be something that's punished. It will be incentivized. And that's one of the main reasons we wanted to create the bracelet with the quick release end links, so people can just buy one bracelet and it can easily handle all the watches you have, because the bracelet is honestly a significant portion of the manufacturing cost, and it's something that not all customers actually use. I personally like the bracelet, but a lot of people, it's the first thing they do when they get a watch, they take the bracelet off. So we don't want people to pay extra for something they're not going to use and enjoy. So we created the bracelet in a way to where one bracelet will cover everything if that's what you want to wear.
Yeah, that's great. And the quick release on metal bracelets is still somewhat of a rarity. Mm-hmm. So I love that you guys are incorporating that. I think it's some of the little details that I think really matter, and being able to, get a bracelet, especially the bracelets, because when you're using a tool, it's so easy to slip and scratch, mm-hmm. The lugs or the bracelet. So I think I got to commend you on making sure that's a quick release. That's fantastic.
There's a lot of frustrations coupled with that. So we also wanted to make sure that, with repeat orders that we place with manufacturers later on, that everything will be interchangeable. So you don't, if somebody orders a diver's watch with the second run that will come out with later also, everything is still going to be interchangeable with that. That's a must on our side in order to make sure that our customers are satisfied not just momentarily, but years down the road.
Yep. Awesome.
I have one more little question, just a practicality and usability type of question, I guess you could say. The shine on this bezel is so beautiful and high polished. It reminds me of our Santos de Cartier. And with that watch, we've scratched it really easily, so it's not a chores watch. How is it? How is the watch wearing for you, since you've been wearing it, doing your chores, and about your daily life? How is that bezel holding up as far as scratches? The one I've got on loan is absolutely perfect, and it doesn't go in the water or do chores. So how are you finding that is wearing for you over time?
So I beat the heck out of my watches, and I don't take it off for anything. And I just posted it not too long ago on my wrist. I share it with my stories sometimes, because I've worn mine for about 6 months, and it has been through. I've mentioned to you guys, I don't know if I've mentioned on the podcast, but in private, that I run a local waste management business where I pick up garbage cans, dump them, take them to the dump, lift over 100 cans every week. It's been with me through that. I've poured concrete with it. I've milked goats with it, dealt with the chickens. I've set up, I've dug, put in sprinkler systems. Chicken wire, I think, is the hardest, because that will scratch steel. But I've done everything in it. If I take it into direct sunlight, you can see little hairline scratches, but sunlight's about the harshest lighting you can get. But when it's in the shade or indoors, honestly, it looks good enough that in our overview that I released 2 or 3 weeks ago on our YouTube channel, where I announced all the models, overviewed all of them, I actually showed my personal unit that I've been wearing for the past 6 months to show just how well it's held up. And really, that's all thanks to the finishing. And my dad can go more into why it is the way it is, but people don't realize how much good, high-quality finishing can actually protect your watch over time and keep it looking new.
Yeah, when I look at this watch, I'm a little afraid to even wear it because of that shine, and I have been wearing it carefully.
Just wear it, use it. It's the difference. People think if you have a surface that is polished and it's polished, but there's a humongous difference between a $10 case and a $50 case manufacturing cost, and most of it is in polishing, how that is done, and the materials that are used for stainless steel, the companies that actually make it versus the cheaper ones that focus on the. I call them the Walmart specials, because we're somewhat accustomed to, if it doesn't work anymore, then I'll just go there and buy another one. I mean, it's a philosophy that a lot of people have, and I'm not. It works for them, and I'm happy for them. We're looking more on the durability, and within 2 or 3 years, looking at it, you still say that was a good purchase, and we are rather confident that we will get this from our customers, like we had it from the diver's watch and this one as well, because of all of the challenges or the improvements that we have on the watch that we made. And it's kind of looking at when I go visit the manufacturers, when I see what else they're making in watches that are running $2,000 to $5,000 on the same line that we manufacture our cases. So they don't look or handle our case any different than those watches that are in that price range, and it shows itself after it's within a year or two how good it is made.
Yeah, I almost make a point to wear mine in the worst case scenarios possible. Like I'm the opposite of most people. I'll put my watch on when I'm about to do something that would normally be really hard on it, because if someone can beat their watch up more than I do, then hats off to them. But I like to plan for worst case scenario so we can expect what our customers are going to get. And if someone can wear a watch harder than I do, I'll be seriously impressed, because I really wear them as hard as possible, just so we can know this is worst case scenario. Our customers, this is what they can expect. And we want people to enjoy them as much as possible without having to baby them and still wear them. So that's somewhat of the reason behind why I wear the watches the way I do, just so we can have a good idea of what a customer will expect with multiple years worth of wear and tear, because that's ultimately what we're going for. We're not going for a watch that people will wear. We don't want to tell ourselves, well, they're going to have this in rotation. Maybe they'll wear it once a week or so, and have that be an excuse to take a shortcut on quality. We want to make it to where we have the expectation that every single customer is going to wear this like they would any watch every day. And that's what we prepare for when we make them.
It'll be a long wearing, it'll be strong over time. And it's not going to be a kind of watch that someone would always be, oh, I have to go out and do this, I better take this off. So you're adding that extra time every day to, take this watch. Oh, I better not wear this. I really want to wear this watch all day, and now I have to go do this, so now I have to take it off. So that's... Yeah. And we do a lot of that here.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine you do a lot of the same stuff I do with mine. Probably more gracefully than I do, but...
oh, I don't know about that.
Good stuff.
I have fallen in my goose pond before. That's one thing that I have done.
I can vouch for that, guys. She has. So, all right. So I want to just really briefly talk, chat a little bit about future plans for the company. But before we do that, any last closing thoughts on this? And also, what's the best way for listeners to make sure they're getting the latest information on the campaign and all that stuff leading up to it?
So the best way to reach us, as far as updates go, I don't send out newsletters too often, but when I do, it's really important. So it's a good thing to be signed up for our newsletter. You can do that through our website at swcusa.com. That's where we update on releases, future models being released. We will be doing another iteration of the diver, like my dad mentioned, soon. And as far as information and updates, our YouTube channel is the best place for that. We try to upload every week. Aside from stuff on our own brand that we share on the YouTube channel, I try to share a lot of my dad's industry knowledge. He's been in the watch industry for longer than I've been alive. So he has a lot of knowledge there, and we try to share as much as possible. And we try to do that as well as keep things updated on our brand. And for daily posts and pictures and just quick updates, we're on Instagram and Facebook, and I try to upload every day there. But those are less information heavy, as Instagram's not the best place to share information. But any of those outlets you can reach me on. If you're more comfortable with email and you don't have an Instagram, send me over an email. I'll reply as quickly as possible. And if you're on Instagram, shoot me a direct message, and I'll be happy to respond there.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll definitely reiterate that if you guys want to be up to date on the campaign, definitely just go to the website, and it's right at the top. You just type your email in, say follow along, and you'll get the updates. So awesome. Well, I think this is an exciting release, guys. We're looking forward to it. I think PG is enjoying the watch right now, so we're going to be getting a review out here prior to the campaign start. So yeah, this is a great one. So I'm gonna pre-congratulate you. I'd be shocked if you didn't hit your funding target, because you guys are already a pretty established micro brand and with a good loyal base. And hopefully with this offering, you're going to pull in some more folks that maybe you couldn't have pulled off the diver. So
there's a lot of interest from women
Yeah. If you've
that
already
I've
had some
seen.
women reaching out to you after your post, so I think that's great. So that's it for the sport. Real quick, anything you can tell us about future plans? You had mentioned a new iteration of the diver. Anything else you can talk about that our listeners and that your fans can look forward to from the brand in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, the diver. I'll briefly go over the diver. It's going to be essentially a version 2 of the current diver. For any of you listening that are customers, we listened to feedback and we took a lot of the feedback that we received over the course of the diver's life, and we implemented that into this design. Minor changes, but they should be very welcome changes that everyone's happy with. And we also have another model that we're working on. It's been in the works about as long as the sports watch. Something I think we mentioned it last time we were on with you guys, that we want to do is we want to break free of the stigma of being a brand that just has one model of watch, and that tends to be divers. Those are the easiest ones to go to, and for good reason. They sell the best, they're the most popular, the most versatile. So my dad is in the process of designing a dress watch that should be really exciting, that we will be releasing in the future as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that I'm looking forward to seeing that one and seeing how you. It's hard to go from, like you said, the diver and kind of that sport, more of that sport line, to something very different in a dress watch and still be able to maintain the brand identity. So for me, that's going to be an exciting one to see.
We hope it's going to work out the way we want. We have certain novelties in there or originalities in there that are not visible, or there's nothing copied on that watch that is currently in existence, and there's probably probably a million different watch designs available. So this is gonna have new written all over it. And,
Wow.
We hope we can have a podcast discussing that watch once you're ready to go over it with you.
Yeah, it's one we're really excited about. From what I've seen, what my dad showed me, what's interesting is it won't be as out there as the sports watch design, but it will have aspects of it that will not just be different in design, but different in function. That should be really exciting. Something we're really excited about.
Yeah, that does sound very, very exciting. We're looking forward to it.
Now I'm thinking, what could this be?
Yeah. Well, guys, we do need to wrap. Like I said, I wish we could talk longer because I love having you guys on the show and just chatting. And hopefully once all this COVID nonsense calms down and we can start moving about again, we're going to get out to Vegas and hopefully see you guys again. But very much appreciate it. Looking forward to the campaign.
We're really excited.
Yep. And hopefully our listeners are too. Go check out the Swiss Watch Company on SWCUSA.com. And you can also find them at that same name, SWCUSA, on Instagram. They're on Facebook, YouTube. Definitely go check out the channels. This is an exciting one. So, guys, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
All right. And so there you have it. Another great hour spent with the SWC guys. That was fun.
A lot of fun.
There's never enough time.
There's never enough time. And we could, even off air before we started recording with them, we were talking about chickens and goats. And I mean, we have a lot in common with those guys. They live out in the desert in Nevada, but they've got farm animals and all that fun stuff. So it's just a blast talking to them. Really excited about this watch release.
Yes.
I think you're looking at buying, aren't you?
I definitely am.
Yeah. You've really been enjoying that thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so different than what they have done before, which we talked about with them already.
Yeah.
But every time I look at it, I just, it's one of those things that it's sort of mesmerizing, and it feels, it's comfortable. And I know it's going to take a beating, and that's our lifestyle is.
Right. Exactly.
Ranch style type abuse to your watches. So, and I wanted to add that Josh's twins were born. The babies are good.
Oh yeah,
Mom
after we
good.
recorded. That's right.
So he has now 5 kids, and the two
Oh
they're two fraternal boys. They weren't sure what,
and they're nice and healthy.
they weren't sure
and
what they were going to be. So they're fraternal. Yeah, they're
mom and
healthy.
kids, I think, are if they're not home from the hospital, coming home very soon. And
They were
yeah.
tiny, I think.
So congrats to them.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But all right, well,
Excellent.
I
So
think we
August
should-
10th.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, August 10th.
August
is the
10th.
release.
They will be letting everybody know what time because they're trying to accommodate, of course, multiple continents.
Right.
So, again, 200 units of the automatic colorways and no cap on the quartz colors.
Right.
You know, the peach and the gray, the salmon and gray is stunning too. Sometimes it's hard to choose.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice options. So definitely, like we said, get over there and sign up on their website. Get your email in there so you'll know, you know. And if you're following them on the social media channels, I know they're going to be announcing it there as well. But I have a feeling they'll probably get something out to their email subscribers first in terms of when it's going to be.
There's a really nice video they did on YouTube as well of this campaign. So check that out as well. But yeah, we're excited.
We're excited for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just, it's a neat brand, and what you get for your dollar is amazing. I mean, the quality and the design, the thought that goes into the design is really fantastic. It's not going. The look is not going to be everyone's thing. They're very unique. I think in the look, we love them, but I just like that it's different, and
Very
the
different
quality
from their
is
diver.
amazing.
The quality. This is. I think some of these auto pieces are probably a $1,000 to $2,000 micro brand watch, but they're not. And I see small brands pricing their watches high, and they're not even using an in-house movement. So the Swiss watch company is using robust, reliable
Swiss movements
that they've purchased off the shelf, and they've put them in an incredible case with extraordinary design. So I think you're getting a lot for your money.
Yeah, I can't think of many examples of being able to pick up a really nice, unique piece with a Swiss automatic movement in it for $400 or less. It's just amazing. They really are price performers. So, so definitely go check them out and get signed up. And yeah, it was great. So, quick reminder to the Epi Man. That's 3 words. The Epi Man, EPI. We did read your review, so make sure to reach out to us at Abin11 Watches, and we'll get you some fun swag. And for everyone else, just get out there and review us on iTunes. You'll have a chance to get your review read online or on the air, and plus it just helps us, and we appreciate it. The more reviews you have, the more frequently you come up in searches, and that means the more listeners and the more people we can bring this fun hobby to. So.
Well, and it's so fun to look at them too, and we're really humbled by the nice comments. Fun. So during this pandemic, I think people are getting a little down. I know everyone's people are having a really tough time, and on the other hand, if you're still blessed to have your job and everything, you do get bored. So get out there and stay active. And
we wish you all the best,
yeah.
Especially our friends that have unfortunately maybe out of work because of this. We're sending our prayers and
or have lost family members to COVID.
Yeah,
which is...
we know some folks out there have lost family members and friends to COVID, but just hang in there. It is going to get better. I know, if you're in a certain position, you may not think that, but it is going to get better, and hopefully by this time next year, we're all going to be out and about again, and maybe having some Love and Watches get-togethers, possibly on the road. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But hang in there, stay safe. We love y'all, and thanks for listening. We'll see you later.
Have a good one.